What's going on, Niner fam? It is Peter Lucas, and I got with me today a special guest from Nothing But Niners, Mr. Mike Andrews. You know what it is. You know who he is. Uh, there's a lot of stuff going on in Ninerland right now. A lot of stuff that's out of our control. It's out of Aiyuk's control. It's out of the team's control. It's everything is out of control. We got a preseason game coming on Saturday. We got a lot to talk about, y'all. But before we get to all of it, we got to hit the music.
Ladies and gentlemen,
I like to know.
are you ready for start time?
And once again, what's going on, Niner fam? It is Peter Lucas. I got with me Mike Andrews, and this is the Niner Fanatic Podcast. I appreciate everybody coming through. It's a special day. Love having my guy Mike in. It hasn't been too long since the last time you were on, but like had such a good time, I had to ask you on again. And we're right before the season starts, but make sure you give the video a like. Make sure that you give it a subscribe. Make sure that you hit the bell so you get the notifications for when we go live. And we're rocking on my channel as well as Mike's. So everybody, make sure that you subscribe and give those thumbs up to both channels. But Mike, appreciate you coming through. Why don't you tell all the people that I don't know how they don't know who you are by now, but but why don't you tell everybody where they can find you on the socials and who you are?
Yeah, guys, right here below is the Twitter handle here. I am not the most I don't do a lot of tweeting unless I've had a lot to drink, and then I just go on for a really long time, and I'll respond to any and everybody. But you guys can feel free to follow me over there, Mike Andrews 83 on Twitter. You guys should follow the social media page for the channel, though. That is Nothing But Niners. We are currently streaming live there right now. Nothing But 9ERS. That's the number 9 in there. But as far as the YouTube page, guys, please head on over, man. Show us some love. Head over to Nothing But Niners on YouTube. You can search NB9ERS. You can search NBN. You can search Nothing But Niners, all the way spelled out. You can cram it all together. We'll pop up there. Please, guys, make sure you head on over and subscribe. And then we even have the Patreon page, patreon.com/NB9ERS.
And his information is also in the description to his Twitter and to his and to the Nothing But Niners page. So make sure the easy way is just to get the link from there. But man, go ahead.
To the people who are watching from the Nothing But Niners channel, you guys make sure you stop by and show some love. Subscribe to my man over here also as well. All right. So Forever Faithful Podcast 49. All right. So make sure you guys head on over to the YouTube channel. Forever Faithful Podcast. 49.
For me, it's Niner Fanatic Podcast. So that was a little bit of confusion. Sorry. We were supposed to have Brandon was supposed to be here with us, and he had to cancel. Man. Yeah, no worries. It's Niner Fanatic Podcast, but Brandon he wasn't feeling too well, so hopefully Brandon feel better, bro. But he wanted to come and see you too, he had to quit it at the last moment. So
yeah, I changed the title on it to appear on my YouTube page, and I put your page name in there with Niner Fanatic Pod. So so they should be able to find it that way.
Cool. And I'll tell you what is not cool right now is 49er Twitter and this whole Aiyuk contract situation. Man. So another day of speculation, a whole bunch of people talking about a bunch of nothing, and still no deal for Aiyuk. There's still no deal for Trent Williams. Mm-hmm. Injuries are starting to mount in camp, and we've got our first preseason game on Saturday. But we're gonna start with Aiyuk, okay? Because that's what everybody wants to hear, right? And so it seems like Aiyuk is at a standoff with management or whoever is dealing with the contract situation. But who do you blame for the situation?
First, I want to thank you for asking an original question on this. I have been on my show, dual shows with Wayne. I have been on with Zach and Matt, and no one has asked me this question one time. Who is to blame? So I want to thank you for finding an original spin to discuss something that is you can easily become nauseated discussing this topic over and over. So thank you for putting an original spin on it. And the truth of the matter is, there's no one to blame. It's time. And the reason I say that is because to me, I'm not going based off of all the rumors and all that. To me, it's very clear that Brandon Aiyuk wants to be a 49er, and it's clear that the 49ers want Aiyuk to stay. The problem is that there's a such thing called a salary cap, and they can't keep him knowing what else is in store and down the road at the number that he's looking for. And so they're hoping to find a happy medium. So what we're experiencing right now is 2024's version of negotiations. Unfortunately, a lot of it plays out in public. There's a lot of pandering. There's a lot of trying to create leverage when none really exists on the side of the player, right? The teams own the rights the same way they have since the beginning of time, right? Like that's just the way it is. But the players try to get the fans on their side. They go around and post these videos. They put these scripted posts out there trying to make it seem like they're the victim, and then all of a sudden they want to be the bullies. No, I want out of here. Blah 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 blah. And it's like, oh, you want out? Fine, go look for a trade partner. Oh, you came back and no one's you're still here. Well, it looks like no one wants you either. So now let's get back to what we have to get back to, whether it be Aiyuk playing out of the fifth year option here, whether it's him getting franchised the following year or him actually getting traded. There is no one to blame except the salary cap and the rules of the NFL. If there was no salary cap, none of this would be happening. They love Aiyuk, and they would happily pay him whatever it would take to stay here. But there is a such thing as a salary cap, my opinion.
Yeah, and honestly, I wouldn't want, and I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to see a league where there's no salary cap. To be honest, like,
oh man,
yeah, I think it keeps the team, the league competitive and to where anybody has a chance. And I think that that is missing in a couple of professional sports leagues. Like, to be honest, like, I'm old. I'm 46. So I remember the days when there was parity throughout all the leagues, and it does make a difference. But I agree with you. I don't think there's really anybody to blame per se, because you look at Aiyuk, he wants to be a 49er. He said it over and over and over again. He wants to be paid what he feels he's worth. And there's obviously a couple of teams out there that are willing to pay him what he feels he's worth. We get it. But at the same time, the 49ers were smart enough to draft him. He is on a fifth-year option. The 49ers have paid so many of their star players at this point that eventually they were going to have to draw a line in the sand somewhere. It was going to have to happen eventually. You can't, it's impossible to pay everyone. And Brandon, and they got to pay Purdy next year. So they got to keep the cap flexibility. Now, with that being said, do I think they could fit it in and they could figure it out and make it and do some creative math? I do. Like, but I don't think that they're willing to. I don't think that they're willing to, because they want their flexibility the way that they want their flexibility, and I do kind of feel some kind of way about that part, because I do think that they could fit like we're talking about 28 million at this point, which is
right.
We're hearing from TJ Hushmanzada and a couple other people that that's really all he's asking for from the 49ers. He's not even asking for what the other teams were willing to pay. So if that's the case, then I feel like the 49ers should be able to get this done. So I do blame them a little bit, but it's such a small number. Like, I don't blame them for wanting cap flexibility, because they've got a whole bunch of people deals coming up, that there's a couple of people that they're not going to be able to keep for sure. And so, it's an interesting situation. It's a weird situation because most teams don't have enough good players on their team to even be in this situation. So we don't get to see this that often. But
Right.
I want to say what's up to
And
everybody in the chat. Y'all are killing it in there, and like you guys are getting active. So already I can't even keep up with all of you. But I appreciate everybody coming out. I see a lot of familiar faces on from both channels, and appreciate you guys coming through. What were you gonna say?
my other earbud just died. So if you start hearing feedback, let me know. I can hear you, but it's coming through my TV. I broadcast through the TV. So if you
Okay,
start
gotcha.
hearing feedback, just let me know. So hopefully
I
it
don't hear
doesn't.
it. You
Okay, all
sound
right.
good.
So then we can rock. Yeah, man, I do get what you're saying. Like it kind of, so if I had to assign blame, I think I would be with you. I think I would be assigning it more to the organization, right? If so, the 26 million number came out from Mike Silver, and I don't know if that number was actually accurate. But I
Yeah.
do know from Brandon Ayuk's mouth that there was an offer when he was on the Pivot podcast. He said that there was an offer that was made to him, and that he called his agent saying, "Hey, is it time to get the suit out? Like, I like this. We can go." And the agent is smart. The agent's connected. Hey, listen, there's 4 more guys that are going to get deals. Let's try to wait them out and see if we can bump this up a couple more dollars, because the agent is going to work off of an incentive. The agent, that's his job, and sure enough, these other deals come through, and now it's like, hey, if you were willing to pay me. And so what they do is they play the percentage game, or they play the position game. If you were willing to pay me X amount, that would have made me a top 7 player or a top paid 5 player. Well, now look, now that these new deals are here, you should still be willing to pay me that. But the Niners weren't looking at it that way. They were looking at it as from a numbers perspective. With the way the salary cap is growing every year, an extra $2 million shouldn't be a deal breaker.
That's
sorry, but it shouldn't.
Yeah, that's my thing too. I completely agree, and it's kind of with the way that these owners are allowed to do funny money and restructures every single season and kicking the can down the road. That I don't get it. I don't get it. Like why the big deal about 2 mil?
Right.
And I mean, I guess it ends up being 10 million over the life of the contract, or 8 million, whatever it is. But it's to like, and I know that they have their reasons, but when I say who do you blame, and I look at this situation, I don't think this is a Kyle or a Lynch situation. I think this is a Parag and a Jed York situation, and I think that's where we're caught up in the 2 million.
Well, you did see Jed on the field. We got him down there on the field today talking to Kyle and John. It looks like Dre Greenlaw was out there with them, and I don't know if someone asked him to leave, but you see Greenlaw kind of nod in agreement, and then he just walks away. So, and I'm not saying that they were having a meeting about Aiyuk on the field or anything like that. But there's a lot that's going to go into this, right? A lot of people aren't talking about it, but the NFL is being sued by, I believe, DirecTV for losing this bid, and this could end up costing billions of dollars, and it could end up making each individual franchise pay an exorbitant amount of money, millions and millions of dollars, and that's probably going to end up coming either out of the owner's pockets or the salary cap. And then if that's the case, this money could make a big difference. The other thing that we have to consider is this. What if it's not $2 million? What if that $26 million number was fake and they actually only offered 24? Right now, 4 million over the contract ends up being, if it's a 5-year deal, 20 million. You know what I'm saying? Now all of a sudden it's like,
that's big money.
Right now you're talking a significant difference. What if it was only 22 million they were willing to offer? I'm like, hey man, like, come on, we want to keep you, but you know what we got coming up? Will you take 22? Maybe Aiyuk jumped at that, right? Maybe he did jump at that, right? That's a 33% raise over the 14.1 that he's going to get. Like maybe he was excited about that. It's the first time he's going to get this kind of money. But then it's like, so what are we because we don't know what the real initial offer was that he was willing to accept from the Niners. We don't know what the gap is now. But what we do know is that there is a difference. That's kind of where we're stuck at. You would love to see him be able to pay everybody, but man, like Brock Purdy's about to get $60 million a year. And I got to be honest with you, man. The Niners really have to ask themselves, is Brock Purdy good enough to elevate the players around him? in the event we have to lose some of these high-end players? That's what they really need to be asking themselves, because if
I
they
think
feel
we're
that
about
the
to
answer,
find out.
yeah, exactly. If they feel the answer is no, then maybe you should pay Aiyuk and say, hey, Brock, man, we need you to take a team-friendly deal, or let's structure it in a way that, your salary, your cap hit isn't going to destroy us. But there's got to be something else going on. They have to be looking down the road, and that's what those money guys in the building, Parag included, get paid to do, because we
Mm-hmm.
don't know.
And that's what makes me wonder. What you just brought up, the Purdy angle, is what makes me wonder if they could is the reason why they're not valuing Aiyuk as much as another team would, is because they think Purdy is that guy, and they think, well, we could probably save some dollars here and there if he's willing to take it. Great, but if he's not, well, okay, we still got Brock, we still got the guy we just drafted in Pearsall, we still got Debo, we still got Kittle, we still got weapons, and we still got CMC. The we can still win. We can still win games. And that could be the way Jed York looks at it, because Jed York doesn't care about a Super Bowl. I don't think. I think he cares more about just winning games, getting to the playoffs. That's going to drive ticket sales. That's going to drive merch and all that good stuff. And it's going to drive all the other things that he charges exorbitant amounts, like training camp, more so than any other team in the
Mm-hmm.
league. Like
Mm-hmm.
so, I just look at it as I think Jed's gotten to the point to where maybe he's trying to save a little bit more money than he had been in the past, and he's starting to look at these dollar signs and saying, okay, well, it's getting a little pricey now.
And the other thing is, you man, you were knocking this thing out of the park here. Jed York has changed his mindset, right? We remember getting rid of
Mm-hmm.
Harbaugh, and it was, we don't hang championship banners here, we hang Super Bowl banners, right?
Yeah,
And the beginning of the last season, he said, I've grown. I realized what I said was in error, because every season you're not going to win a Super Bowl, but it does not mean that you didn't have a successful season. I have to learn to appreciate, and I have learned to appreciate, making it to the playoffs and having multiple home playoff games. And, then all of a sudden he started talking a little bit different, because that's money in his pocket. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
he has changed in that sense. So that was a phenomenal point as well. I'm not going to say that he doesn't care about championships, because as much as, winning playoff games is a good thing for an organization, winning a Super Bowl is even better. I mean, let's just be honest,
yeah.
right?
Oh yeah, for
All of a
sure.
sudden, every ticket goes up $20, no matter where it is, and now look at that difference, right? You got 60,000+ people in there times 20. I mean, you're you're going to make a
And
killing.
the shared revenue, because he's making all that money. Like, I mean, the 49ers take over every stadium.
Yep. Yep.
So the
Mm-hmm.
shared revenue from that as well. Uh, yeah, it's not. I think it's not that I don't think he cares. I probably misspoke on that one, but it's just that it's not. This team made the NFC Championship game has been the floor for this team for 4 out of the last 5 years.
Yeah.
That's the
Yep.
floor. I mean, some teams haven't even gotten a playoff win in years.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So he's made those playoff games. They making buku. They making buku off those, and especially the home games that they had this past season. If they can get the home field advantage again this season, and they make him Jed's just printing money, and
Yeah.
I think that he believes in Kyle. That Kyle's been able to build. Kyle and Lynch have been able to build what they've been able to build. I do think they want the championship, and but Jed is cool, just riding the wave.
Yeah.
And if we
And
get it, great. But we know we're going to get this money every year.
yeah. And Joe Boyd just posted a really good comment there, saying the 49ers need receivers that can separate, right? You talked about
Mm-hmm.
we have Debo and we have Kittle, right? But the truth of the matter is this is an opinion at all. But the truth is Debo struggles against man and getting open down the field unless it's a busted coverage,
Yes.
right? George
Mm-hmm.
Kittle, we have seen George Kittle catch touchdowns intended for someone else because he just freestyled a route out there, right? While he can run the short routes well, we need someone who's going to dominate those intermediate or long routes, and that's
Mhm.
where Aiyuk's niche comes in to this offense, right? So they have guys that can do it all really well. We've got the long, we've got the intermediate, and we've got the short route guys. Like, Debo is going to get open off the line very quickly. Kittle is good from 5 to 8 yards really, really well, right? But anything down the field, I think your two best guys are probably, as far as route runners go, down the field. This is going to sound crazy when I say the second name. Aiyuk is the first one, obviously. The second guy is probably Kyle Juszczyk, and that's because no one's expecting him to go out there and do it when he's that
Mhm.
downfield guy. You know what I'm saying? So you're hoping that a guy like Pearsall can do it, or maybe Cowan can do it, but we don't know that yet. We have to see what they turn out to be. So, and both of them are a little banged up throughout preseason, throughout camp so far. So we got to find out what's happening.
Which worries me about Pearsall because he was injured in college and he was injured in high school.
He's
So
never missed a game, but he's battled through injury. So
yeah.
yeah,
But it just worries me because that now, I mean, now you're dealing with the big boys and those hits that you might have been able to get up from in college and high school, like you're not necessarily going to get up from those in the pros.
mm-hmm.
So it just where I just get worried, a little worried, because he does play a little bit of a physical style, which is weird because he has a problem with press man, but
Right.
but it's I agree with everything you said because I've been shouting to the mountaintops about Debo not being able to separate, and he's I wish he would work less on the doing the training videos and the running routes against air videos, and I want to see him maybe play against another guy on the other side and just doing some one-on-ones versus press man. I'd rather see some of those types of videos from him, that he's working on those types of things. And I'd like to see him block downfield a little bit more
Oh,
and
come
be
on.
more of a leader, like I feel like Aiyuk is, which is another layer to the whole Aiyuk thing. I feel like Aiyuk has done everything that Kyle has asked of his wide receivers. He is the prototype for everything that Kyle says he wants in a wide receiver. But it seems like Debo gets all the love from Kyle. It's the weirdest thing on the planet to me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I love Debo. I still think that Debo is definitely a weapon and he can take it to the house on any given play. But you do need that guy that can just get open. Not that they're going to throw. It's an interesting caveat because even though he can get open against one-on-one coverage, IU gets open at will against anybody because they're not doubling him. But they don't throw him the ball. He only got 6 targets in the Super Bowl, and it wasn't
Yeah.
because he wasn't open.
Right. There was a whole cut up. Rich Madrid, shout out to him. Takes time to do. He posted every route that Aiyuk ran, and I would say 80% of them, that guy was getting separation and open. He just wasn't part of the game plan. That was not his game to be the guy.
But I mean, which game do you remember where he was the game plan? He's
I,
never
I
the game plan.
I was gonna say I don't know that he's ever, and that could be the hang up with paying him that kind of money, right? Aiyuk
But
is
he should be. Like, my point is that he should be, because if you're going, like, the teams are keying on CMC and Debo because those are the guys you normally go through.
mm-hmm.
Like, if you just gave them another look and made an Aiyuk game and just let him break off teams because he's always getting single coverage, like, make it an Aiyuk game so that adds another layer to
Right.
what teams have to game plan for. I feel like Kyle sometimes he puts an unnecessary ceiling on his own offense.
Yeah, I can absolutely see that. And you're absolutely right. You can watch games and say, all right, Debo took this game over, or Christian McCaffrey took this game over. Hell, you can even say last year there were games that George Kittle took over. He had that one game with 2 or 3 touchdowns in it. Like, he was all over the place, right? But
Yeah.
I just don't. Aiyuk is just consistently good and there when you need him. That's it. That's what he does. But in another offense, if he was the focal point, there's no telling what his numbers were like. This guy put up 1,300 plus yards.
Yeah.
right? Just as a receiver, no trick run plays, no fancy toss it to Debo and let him throw it to Aiyuk. He doesn't benefit from those things. These are
Yeah.
real quarterback to wide receiver connection yards. Imagine if he got as many targets as a Justin Jefferson or Devontae Adams, you know what I'm saying, or Tyreek Hill or something like he's not there. He's not there. But
Yeah.
imagine if he was. This offense, it would be so hard to. It's already hard to game plan against this offense with the way that Kyle does it. Imagine if Kyle said, "This game is going to be Aiyuk's game. This game is going to be Jennings' game. This game is going to be Kittle's game. This game is going to be, Debo's game, or this one's going to be CMC's." Teams would they would pull their hair out. Most teams say we're going to take away your number one and number two option. This team is fortunate enough right now to have 5 really good options on offense. We just got to see Kyle, and I'm not complaining about Kyle because, I mean, here we are averaging 30-plus points a game when everyone's out there, right? So I'm not going to sit there and try to make it sound like he doesn't know what he's talking about or know what he's doing. He does. He's way better. He's got more football knowledge than I've ever witnessed. He's probably forgot more than I know. But we all sit back and, we victim of, watching it and saying, oh man, we should have done this instead of that type of thing. So.
Yeah. I feel you. And it's, but to your point, and something I saw in the chat as well is that Aiyuk's not getting double teamed. And if he was the guy on another team, he would be getting those double teams in that bracket coverage. Mm-hmm. And we don't know what that would look like because we've never had to see it. So it would be an interesting way, but 49ers don't motion him. They don't move him around the formation. They don't scheme him open or anything like that. So I feel like he is a good enough route runner and a good enough player that he would thrive regardless. I feel like, but we can't say that because we haven't seen it. that's right. The only thing. But so as we because I want to transition away from Aiyuk, because I think we've all talked about him ad nauseum. But let's just get this last part out of the way. If he was to be traded, and the 49ers can't come to an agreement with him, who do you think he goes to, and what do you think the possible compensation?
Ugh. Oh man. If I'm the 49ers, I would send him to Washington. But I don't know if Washington's interested. But of all other than New England, Washington or New England would be the two. And that's just so that way, if you do trade him, whatever pick you get is probably going to be higher based off of those two teams. The Steelers are consistently 800 or better, and they make it to at least the postseason. So you're probably not going to get much there. I would try to send him to a team that is going to give us the best return, meaning the pick. Now, if you're involving players and all that, then it's a little bit different, right? Then maybe you do want to consider the Steelers because they have some higher end players that would maybe help us out on the defensive side of the ball or something like that. I don't know that you're going to be able to do a receiver for receiver trade and get what you're losing in Aiyuk. In addition to the 1,300 yards, he's the best blocking player on the team that's not an offensive lineman. And by the way, he's better than 3 offensive linemen. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to blocking, which is absolutely insane to think about, right? Like you have a wide receiver who's the 3rd best blocker on the entire team. And so I just don't know that you're just going to go out around the league and point someone out and say that guy can do that here in this offense. So I would probably end up sending him to one of those teams, Washington or New England.
Yeah. I'm almost tempted to go ahead and give him to Pittsburgh, but I'm petty. I'm petty. So it couldn't be me because he would have probably ended up on he wouldn't sign the deal with New England or Cleveland. So I would have probably sent, like you said, I would have sent him to Washington, give him what he wanted. I don't think that they're there yet, and I don't necessarily think that they will be for at least a year or two. I know that they brought in a lot of guys and I know that they just drafted their new guy in Jaden Daniels, and we've yet to see what he's going to be. But I hear a lot of good things out of their camp, but I got to see it first. So I would go ahead because in not knowing, like, oh yeah, I'm doing two birds with one stone. I'm giving Aiyuk somewhat of what he wanted. If I did get a pick, I would want a first round pick. So if I took a first round pick from them, like it would be in my mind, it's going to be a higher pick. And then on top of it, I'm going to want a wide receiver. And they've got a couple of guys. I would want Terry McLaurin in my opinion. I think he's the only one of their wide receivers that could help us right now.
While that's true, you got to look at that contract, because if that's the case, then just pay Aiyuk.
Yeah, I get it. That would have been the same thing that I said, but like myself, I would have thought the exact same thing. I would have just paid Aiyuk, but they would probably do, in my mind, they would probably do a restructure and try and kick the can down the road, like with since Terry McLaurin's, they probably try to restructure.
Yeah,
and that's he's a little bit older. I don't think he can block like Aiyuk, but at least he's never been asked to. We don't know if he can or can't.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like I think the moral of the story is just pay Aiyuk. Just pay him and just keep him here. Give him his 2 mil, 10 mil, whatever he needs. Figure it out later. And normally I wouldn't say it like that, but I feel like you said, the cap is going up every year. They tried to make it seem like this lawsuit with DirecTV or whatever was going to do something to the cap, but I don't think it is. The NFL prints money. As long as there's not a COVID that comes, I think that it's going to be fine.
And even then, man, I mean, you ever think back to that COVID season? Like, fans bought cardboard to put into the stadiums because they couldn't be there. This fan base is dedicated. And Jed York knows, like you said, they take over stadiums when they go. When we travel really, really well. Then even when we couldn't be there, we wanted people to look into the game and say, "Hey, look, there's my cutout right there. Look, that's me right there." Like,
I remember that.
when they dismantled Candlestick, they were selling seats. They were selling seats, and I wanted to get one, but at the time I lived in an apartment. I'm like, what the hell am I going to do with these 2 stadium seats, right? Like, put them out on my balcony, you know what I mean, and take up half of the space out there, But it was like, but our fans did that when they were building Levi's. Fans bought bricks. They bought bricks. Think about that for a second. Like, this has got to be one of the most dedicated fan bases I have ever seen in my entire life. And so when we start to complain, when we are the 40 whiners, which we are, let me be very clear, we whine a whole lot. But like, we've earned that right. We've earned that right. If I'm buying bricks in your brand new stadium, I'm gonna complain when I see some stuff that I don't like. So I like it, man. It's like you said, they print money. They will find a way to make some money instead of taking losses, and that's exactly what they did during even the COVID season.
Yeah. Now let's transition to really the most important re-signing, because I think they could get by without Brandon Aiyuk. I think that they would still make the playoffs. I still think that they would still probably have a really good season even without Aiyuk. But Trent Williams, I don't think that they could win without Trent Williams. I'll be honest with you. And it's really, all you have to do is look to last year and see that every game that he missed. Now, granted, Debo missed all the same games as he did, but they were missing both players. But I think Trent was the more glaring, obvious need in those situations. And because you can't run the ball, you can't pass the ball without Trent Williams on this team. He is the only offensive lineman. He's the one offensive lineman that keeps everything going. Every team knows that they're going to the left side every single time they run the ball, and it still works because of Trent Williams. So, is he more important than Aiyuk to get signed?
Ooh. That is a very, very tough question, but I think I'm going to go with yes. I'm going to go with yes. We've seen the Jalen Moores out there. We've seen the Colton McKivitts out there, who I've heard is having a pretty good camp actually. But the truth of the matter is, you need Trent, man. You need Trent. And you know what's odd about all of this with Trent?
Mhm.
You would think that while you are struggling to find $2 or $3 million, or maybe even $4 for a player that you say you want to keep, restructuring Trent would generate
Will
that
save
money.
you money.
It's like what's the hang up? How can we sit here on this end of things and we can see it? You got a guy who is on the books for, what is it, like 31 million or something like that is his cap hit this year, something like that. And
Yep.
he's asking to be restructured to give him guarantees. You convert that money into a signing bonus, make it another 5 years, or add on 3 years to the rest of the contract and make it a total of 5. Huge signing bonus, give him some guarantees, and now all of a sudden your cap space goes up. It
Yeah.
increases the cap space for this year and next year. I don't
Yep.
understand what they're waiting for. That was the call that was supposed to happen. It was supposed to be, there's 2 tackles that are going to get paid. Trent wants to wait for those 2 guys to get paid. They got paid. Now the Niners know where Trent needs to be as far as in the averages per year and all that. Restructure, base it off of those 2 contracts, and everyone's happy. What's the holdup?
Yeah,
What
and it's
the
not
hell
like
is the holdup?
Trent's looking for a long-term deal.
He just wants some guaranteed money. Same thing
That's
Christian McCaffrey wanted.
that's it. And I'm sure he looked at that deal when it happened and said, okay, well, I need that too. If CMC's getting that, then I need that too. And
Right.
and I think that he saw that all of a sudden he wasn't the highest paid left tackle anymore. And no, that's not going down because I know I'm the best.
Right. Right.
So and honestly, it's partly the 49ers didn't help the situation because they won't draft his eventual replacement.
Right. They handcuff themselves, right? Like, how
Like,
crazy is that?
so what you gonna do? Because because if I don't play, like, I mean, that's a bad situation. Jalen Moore is like, nothing against Jalen Moore, but Jalen Moore is not taking my spot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, like, you did that. You kind of did that to yourself. You had a
Right.
couple of seasons now to draft some people, put some people in the pipeline, and y'all just you're making excuses, and now here we are.
Yeah.
So
And there are
yeah,
people that are upset with Trent, and you see Boat's comment right
yeah, I
there.
see
Don't
it.
sign a contract, right? But here, let's be honest. 2 seasons ago, Trent said, "I did think about retiring." That was 2 seasons ago.
Hmm.
He signs a little bit of a deal that ends the guarantees for this coming season. You can't tell Kyle and Trent and this whole team that they didn't think that they were going to win the Super Bowl this coming season. The
Yeah,
past season, I'm sorry, this past
yeah.
season. The
Oh, I know
reason
that
why
they thought.
Trent was willing to sign a deal with no guarantees for 2024 is because we assumed that we were going to be winning, and I'm probably going to ride off into the sunset and retire. So I don't need any more guarantees. I'm going to get this Super Bowl win under my belt to solidify me as the best tackle to ever play the game, and I'm going to retire. You know what happened? We lost that game in overtime. And so
Yeah,
now it's like, oh, you want me to come back? Well, we got to fix this because our plan didn't work the way it was supposed to. But it's a
yeah.
simple fix. It's a
It's a
simple
simple
fix.
fix. But also, and this is my answer to people that and the couple of guys that are talking about that, he signed a contract and all that. You know, owners do deals all the time. They don't honor those contracts. They let guys go all the time and without
Yeah.
paying them.
Mm-hmm.
And like,
Yeah.
so it's a business. It's a business, and there's very few opportunities for players to have leverage in this game. So when they find some leverage, they've got to take advantage. They have
Right.
to, because if they don't, the owners are going to take advantage the minute they have the advantage. So we got to look at it from both sides in those situations. And if you're the 49ers, you have to position yourself. You have to be thinking about that at all times. That, yeah, you have the leverage 95% of the time, but you cannot let that 5% happen
Right.
and then
Right.
think that they're not going to strike.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, they're human beings. These are smart human beings as well. And these agents are like sharks in the water. They're looking for reasons.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, yeah.
And the thing with Trent, everyone's saying, oh, well, he's going to get paid. He's going to get paid. Yes, Trent will still make a lot of money on a per game basis. But
Mm-hmm.
with no guarantees, if he injures himself, we have
Yeah.
no idea what he's going to get paid, if at all. If at all.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea what his injury guarantees are. And that's why his agent and Trent himself won't even come and step on the field. I mean, we've seen Pearsall get hurt twice, maybe 3 times throughout training camp. Cowing, McCaffrey, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's a long. We signed an offensive lineman, and the same day we signed him, he goes to IR.
Yeah.
Like, so you can't say, "Oh, well,
It's
it's just
wild.
practice." If I'm Trent, I'm not stepping out there either. I'm not
It's
stepping
not
out there
funny,
either.
but it's not funny. Like, I shouldn't laugh, but like, I mean, but I mean, that's real. It's, and why do you think all of a sudden, like these injuries are popping up out of nowhere? Like, I mean, a lot of them there, and there is one thing that happened in this offseason. We do have a completely different strength and conditioning staff, and
New
I
staff,
think
man.
that kind of went under the radar. But yeah. And does anybody remember what was going on in 2020? After 2020, we were begging them to change the strength and conditioning staff.
Mm-hmm.
They found one that worked, and that has kept this team relatively healthy for the last couple of seasons. And now here we are.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
just hoping that this doesn't turn into a 2020. And but I'm glad that it's happening now and not later on in the season.
Yeah. And that's, knock on wood, that's the
Yeah.
silver lining in all of this right now. You know what I'm saying? It's that the injuries are happening early. Right now, no one except for 2 players now are done for the season, and that was F-line, the offensive lineman, and they announced
Mhm.
today that
Drake
Jackson is done for
Drake
the season as well. Yeah.
Yeah, now Drake Kinlaw. I'm gonna start calling him Drake Kinlaw now.
And it's so weird. I was asking in my group text if he would accrue a season. He had that surgery in the off season, so I don't know if it counts as a football thing now. So I don't even know if this will count as an accrued season. We might be going through this whole thing with Drake Jackson again, because I don't know how that I don't know how that works.
Yeah, with Drake Jackson, I mean, I'll be honest. I don't know that it matters. I don't know that it matters. It's nothing against Drake Jackson. He's obviously not giving them what they want to see from him. And it's they constantly they brought in Floyd, they brought in all these defensive linemen. Gross Matos is looking like a beast. I thought that was going to be a great signing the minute everybody was all in on the other signing, but with Floyd, but I thought the Gross Matos one was going to be the more important of the two.
Right. Malik Collins was my favorite acquisition to the defensive line this offseason, but Gross Matos is a good one. Like you said, they also were excited about Floyd, who, by the way, did get banged up early in training camp. I know people forgot about it because he came back, but he also got banged up in training camp, right? Then the other thing is, I know a lot of people were disappointed with the production or lack of from Hargrave, but it turns out he was playing through injury all year as well. Him and Armstead were playing through a lot of injuries down the stretch. And so with him being healthy now, I think we're going to see who we thought we were going to get in Javon Hargrave.
But they had, and now on Jordan Elliott too. He's been banged up the last couple of days. And I think that's why they brought in so many interior linemen in this offseason, was because they last year Hargrave, I think he was dinged up, but I think it was a lot of it because he had to play so many snaps. Like the rotation
Mhm.
was a lot more thin towards the end of the season,
Mhm.
uh, but last year because guys were just getting dinged up and honestly, like they just didn't have enough got quality guys down the stretch for the rotation than they normally had in years past. Like there was no uh, when we had the Ebacoms and the what was his name? It's right on the tip of my tongue.
Hyder? No.
No,
Who you
well they
talking
had him too, but no, the other guy that he got hurt last year right before the Super Bowl in for Kansas City. He went to Kansas City. He ended up going to Kansas City last season. And Amenahu,
about? Oh, Charles. I
Amenahu,
mean, okay.
yeah, like that. Like they had guys like that could come in. They could play some interior snaps. They were really, they just had those guys that could do both. And I think it kept those other guys fresh. Like in Armstead, honestly, we talk about Armstead's effect on the run game, but I mean he's missing how many games,
Right.
and we were still good against the run when he wasn't there when D'Amico was the defensive coordinator. And I don't want to get into that conversation about Steve Wilkes, but I feel like it was they missed those waves of players that they had and I think, but now guys are just getting dinged up in training camp, and it's going to be. I'm hoping that a lot of this is just them saying that they're injured because I know they've done that in the past, and then come week one, everybody's ready to go for the most part.
Mhm.
That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping. How about I know that's what they're doing with CMC.
Right.
They just
Yeah.
don't want to
But
have to
now
play
he's
him
in the
in the
bubble.
preseason.
Right. He's in the bubble. We got Elijah Mitchell, um, who just recently got dinged up as well. Right.
Well, I mean that's not a surprise, but either.
Part of the course. Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
he
it's what it is.
breathed like he was walking outside. So I mean, I
Yep.
feel like that guy can't take vitamin D.
Hmm.
Like it's wild. But with that being said, Jordan Mason had been looking crazy in camp. But I mean, he's always looked solid in practice. It's just when it comes down to it, and they get him out on the field, and he forgets an assignment, we don't see him after that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And they explained that, right? Well, he
Yep.
explained it. His presser. He talked about how him and Bobby Turner didn't see eye to eye for a long time. And then he had to learn to adjust to what Bobby Turner was expecting. He went out and bought a jugs machine and worked on his hands and things like that. But it's the blocking too. These Niner running
Mm-hmm.
backs, especially if you're not Christian McCaffrey, they're going to be looking for you to block. Odds are the play is probably not going to you. So that means you're going to be in there for protection or to be the check down. You got to be able to catch it when they call your number. So I liked hearing that he went out and worked on it, invested in himself. That's what you want to do, right? These guys,
Mm-hmm.
these bodies, they are their bodies are their business. Their abilities are their business, and so you got to invest in yourself if you believe in yourself. So I love seeing that and hearing that about him.
Yeah, me too. And Nigel mentioned Garendo. I don't know what to think about Garendo because he's another guy that's had injury issues throughout his college career.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
I was surprised that the 49ers drafted him. I liked Garendo coming out, and I just thought his traits were like, I mean, his traits are his traits. And I didn't really pay too much attention to his injury history, but yeah, he's got to be able to
lingering
get on the
hamstring
field.
issues. Yeah, this might end up being a redshirt year for him. They might not ever put him on the field, and I would be okay with that. I would be okay
Yeah.
with not seeing Garendo this season. Like it's just, he's even if he was healthy, this is going to sound crazy, right? But you're not getting that line ahead of any of the top three guys, even with Mitchell being hurt the way that he is all the time, you know. And there were a lot of people who were very high on Schroeder.
Yeah.
One of the most popular undrafted free agent signings for the 49ers. So odds are Garindo wasn't going to get in here anyway. I'm cool with redshirting him, letting him learn the playbook, letting him, get the mental reps and all that stuff while getting that body back to 100%. These guys focus so much on doing their combine stuff and their pro day stuff. They get out of football shape to get into track shape. They want to go out there and run the fastest and all that stuff. And that is a stress on the hamstrings. And so for a guy who had the chronic hamstring issues or the reoccurring hamstring issues, I'm not surprised by the announcement. And I think the Niners might be being smart to stash him.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's it's I don't mind because they have a plethora of running backs that they've brought in. Got to mention that Matt Breida's back in the house. Like, I don't know that he's going to be as fast as he was in 2019, but still, I just like just a Brett.
He could
I
be.
always like Matt. I always like Matt Breida. The only reason why he did get dinged up with injuries, but he would fumble, and then Kyle didn't want to put him back in the game after that. So hopefully he's taking care of those issues. But yeah, I like that signing.
I was fond of it, especially when you're down 3 running backs already. You want to go out and get a guy that's out there that knows the system. You don't have to pound them over the head with the playbook or anything like that. And it's going to be a vanilla game plan anyway in preseason. So you go out there and you go get a guy like Breida. And listen, he is in the physical prime of his life right now. He's 29 years old. It's not like he's 31, 32, 33 years old coming in here. This is the peak. You do this and then you start doing this, right? Yeah. He's at the very, very top right now, and everything after this season is going to start to be a slowdown, and that's why people have to be cautious. Talking about Breida and his speed. News came out today that we signed Robbie Chosen or Robbie Anderson, right? Formerly Robbie Anderson. So he's here, and everyone's like, "Oh man, this guy is fast as hell. He ran a 4.2." Blah blah. Listen. That was many, many moons ago. I guarantee you he's not a 4.29 guy anymore. No. And so maybe he can be a role player here, maybe, and the Niners go out and get guys that were formerly fast and try to, use them every once in a while at the wide receiver position. He might, if he ends up making the team, he might, chart, 17 receptions or something on the total for the whole year, but don't expect a whole lot from him.
I think he's going on the practice squad. I think he's going to be that veteran practice squad person that they get. They always have a couple that they keep. And I think that's what he's going to end up being for the 49ers. But he's just when in emergency, break the glass. He knows the system.
Yes. Yeah, very good. Yep. That's what he is. Yeah.
And speaking of a guy that in emergency break the glass, apparently it was an emergency because Trent Taylor came back. He's the only one that can catch a punt and looks half decent on returns.
I'm not going to lie to you, and unfortunately, I put it out there, so I have to stick to it. And I'm going to say it now: if Trent Taylor makes this roster, we are in trouble.
I don't understand it. I get it.
Why are the 49ers so afraid to invest in a return man? Even when we drafted Pettis, I was like, "Oh, we got one," and guess what? We never saw Pettis do.
Yeah, I get it, but that's not true. They tried it with Danny Gray, didn't work out. He did not look good. They tried it with. They wanted to do it with Debo, but Debo's going to get hurt.
Yeah.
If they do it too much with him, they tried it. They tried it with. They invested in Ray McLeod. And that just while he was solid, but it wasn't giving you anything dynamic. And then at the end of the day, it ended up being and I don't think it was his fault about the muff punt in the Super Bowl. But at the same time, we just have bad luck with special teams. And I really think that's all it is. It's just bad luck with special teams.
And it doesn't help when you go out and get a guy that you hired via text, hey, we got an opening. You want to come here and be our special teams coach? He's like, oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, sure. He admitted I wasn't even thinking about coaching that season until I got the text from Kyle. That is a terrible thing to say to the public. I'm sorry. That's a terrible thing to say. And now we got these new rules. And so a guy who wasn't really into the job at that point when he was hired, now all of a sudden you got to come up with a whole new scheme for blocking and return men and styles and ability. Oh, geez, Louise. Like, it's like, what are we doing? What are we doing? You know, but he's here and
Yeah.
we'll see what happens.
It's special teams is the 49er just kryptonite. It's been like that for a long time, even during the Harbaugh years. And, certain teams just have certain areas that they've always struggled with. The Bears can't draft offensive line to save their life. They also have problems. They can't get now Caleb Williams might change that, but when was the last time the Bears had a good quarterback?
Well, you know what's odd is that they invested in all the weapons and supporting cast for the quarterback after they got rid of their first round pick just to get another first round pick in there. Like,
they've drafted guy after guy. They've drafted guy after guy. They've tried to sign guys in free agency. It just none of it works.
They probably need a better offensive line coach. Like, at some point you got to blame the coach. Like, hey, like let's get some consistency here. But
I mean, they've gone through coach after coach after coach,
mm-hmm.
As well. At what point do you just say, "Hey, we are going"? The first thing I'm asking in the interview is, "Okay, what do you think about offensive line?" I need to know. I need to know that this is the priority.
Right. Meanwhile, the 49ers are telling our offensive line coach, Chris Forrester, like, hey, listen, just work with what we got, okay? And he's like, yeah, no problem. And he does it, but he does it at such a good, like, we're in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And if you ask any 49ers fan what the weakest position group on the entire team is, 10 out of 10 will tell you offensive line.
And but poor Forrester, I feel bad for Forrester because he's having to drink the Kool-Aid that Kyle is feeding him, knowing that it's BS. You can tell by the way when he's making the explanations, it like he knows it doesn't make any sense. He's like, hey, we believe here that we just need to have as many weapons and guys that you can get the ball in their hands. I mean, he does the best job I've ever seen at not throwing Kyle under the bus when he knows it's BS.
Yeah.
And he says, hey, well, would I love to have some thoroughbred? Of course, but that's not what we believe here. That's not what we're doing here. And and I knew this was going to happen, but Kingsley Suamataia about to be the starting left tackle for the Chiefs. We passed on him twice.
Mm-hmm.
On him twice. And before you say, oh, well, the Chiefs don't have the same they don't have the same scheme as the 49ers. Suamataia had all the measurables. All the short area quickness, all of it was there.
How big is it?
And he's 300. What he was? I'd have to look it up, but he was over 300 pounds.
And see, that might be what the issue is, right? Like, the Niners like smaller tackles, except for Trent. But
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. You got Trent, who's a unicorn. But Suamataia's got the for a guy his size to have the quickness like that, and then he was solid in college. I mean, he was a first round. People were looking at him to get drafted in the first round already, so it was there. And I'm not going to complain about it again. But I always like to bring it up because people sat there and told me that that Kyle knows better and that the team knows better than everybody. But the reality is there's a lot of talent that this team, especially in the first couple of rounds, this team has just passed on.
Mm-hmm.
And then it comes out later, and then Kyle makes the excuse that, oh, well, if we didn't draft this guy, if we did drafted this guy, then we couldn't have drafted this guy, but the guys that you drafted didn't. So a lot of them didn't pan out,
and you can tell that that's it's like a rehearsed response, because not only did Kyle say it, when they go and get Forrester to the podium, he says the same exact thing, right? Like, my offensive linemen don't make plays, they don't score points, they don't break tackles, blah blah blah. So you can tell it was like a rehearsed response. Mm-hmm. Like, this is what we're going to say when they ask about why didn't we invest more into your position group, right? And there was a running joke throughout the draft, like, the Niners drafted a wide receiver, Coach Kosirik is throwing a hissy fit. It wasn't a defensive lineman for the first time. And you know what I'm saying? It's like, 3 picks in and still no defensive lineman. Oh my God, the whole draft and no defensive lineman.
Yeah, I
Kosirik just
couldn't
turned
believe
in his
it.
resignation. Like,
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I thought they were going to draft somebody.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and I get it. The position, like the skill players, all that stuff. I get the argument. At the same time,
You got to give
don't
him time.
complain. Don't complain when Trent asks for another contract.
And you hear Jim Harbaugh come back to the NFL, and one of his first viral clips is talking about the value of the offensive line. You can have the best wide receivers and running backs, but if there's no one to block for the quarterback or the running back, those players don't matter. It's a balance, man. That's what makes football so fun to watch. You need all 11 players in unison and in sync to make the plays successful. And that's why football is so much fun, man. I love it. I love it. And I'm not going to lie to you, man. My favorite position coach on this team is Chris Forrester. I think he's the most underrated position coach on this team. Bobby Turner
easily
is up there. You know what I'm saying? Don't get me wrong. I think Chris Kosirik is a little overrated. I think Chris Forrester is underrated. And by the way, he's highly regarded in the NFL. It's not a knock on him at all. He's very highly regarded in the NFL. And even with that, I think he's a little underrated. I think he's underrated and underappreciated. So
I definitely think he's underrated.
Right. Imagine if they gave him some first and second round guys, right? Like you see what he did with Banks. You know what I'm saying? You see what he did with Lincoln Tomlinson. You see what he's out there doing with Colton McKivitz and Jake Brendel.
Pooney.
These were outcasts from other teams. Like teams were saying, yeah, we don't want these guys. He's like, come on, I'll make you a starter. Let's go. Just listen to me. I got your back. Come on, buddy. I got you.
Which I'm interested to see, which is perfect time to transition to Saturday's game. First preseason game. We don't normally people don't care about preseason, right? But the 49ers, and with all the injuries, like the 49ers, the thing to look for in the 49ers is the depth, is the backups, because we need to know what I don't know, maybe you don't need to know out there, but I want to know who's coming up next, because we've got quite a few contracts that are coming up pretty soon, and like starting next year, that they're going to have to make decisions on a lot of these players. And some of these guys, we want to see what we're getting. Are these guys going to be suitable replacements? Is there room to grow? And Forster was talking about, was it today that he had his press? I think it was today he had his press conference. Like he was talking about a couple of Hubbard and a couple of the other offensive linemen that are probably going to get a lot of playing time. He also said he thinks Pooney's going to get a lot of playing time, which he talked about getting them quality snaps, and which I'm all for. But that he was mentioning 3 specifically: Hubbard, I think it was Barch. I want to say it was Barch and Pooney, getting them quality snaps. And I really think that those are going to be your main depth pieces. So I want to see what that looks like. And not that I'm expecting perfection, but I just want to see if these guys get in the game, how bad is it going to be?
Right.
Because we know some of the starters we would replace with other players. So how bad is it going to get if these other guys go down? Because with Kyle's system, you don't necessarily have to hold up a ton in pass protection. That's what's so great about the system.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when you go up against those better teams, like we saw in the playoffs, and and people know what you want to do, it's you're gonna have to pass protect for a little bit more than 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And so I just want to see what it's going to look like, and that's my main thing. But what are you looking for in this preseason game?
I want to analyze the depth at the cornerback position. Both of our starting outside corners, or our nickel corner and Demo, who's going to be moving back and forth. Both those guys are on the last year, right? It's contract time for both of those guys. And so odds are the Niners are only going to be able to keep one, and that's with fingers crossed and them, making it friendly for the team, being able to keep one of those guys. Who's going to be behind them? Who is the backup in the event that one of those guys has to miss a little bit of time? Mooney Ward, I'm not going to call him injury prone, but he misses some time. Even if he doesn't miss a full game, he'll miss some snaps. He gets the wind knocked out of him and things like that. He's got to have replacements come in for him every once in a while. It seems like the fan base is tapped out on Ambry Thomas. They don't want to see him here anymore. So the 49ers go out and they get guys like Rock Ya-Sin, a big name, but I think terrible. But Isaac Yiadom, maybe he's going to be a guy that can fill in here and maybe can sign a team-friendly deal when it's all said and done. It depends, right? If the defensive line lived up to expectations, you and I could suit up at corner and be decent. You know what I mean? But the defensive line was the biggest disappointment of last year. So it's like, all right, well, we can't assume anything anymore. You guys in the back end have to be good, right? Our safeties, think about this for a second, right? Our starting safeties, one of them is still injured and recovering in Hufanga. One of the worst athletic scores you're going to see. And then you got New Jersey's own. You guys know how I am about my Jersey guys. And Jair Brown, he's not the most physically gifted guy either out there. You need these corners to really hold up and just let the safeties play their assignment. So I want to see the depth at the corner position. That is going to be the main thing that I'm watching. I can't wait for the Niners to be on defense. I don't expect a lot of points from the Niners offense. I don't expect us to win this preseason game. Now I hope that we get into some game situations at halftime and things like that, 2-minute drill type stuff. You know what I mean? I hope to see some of those game situations to see how the team answers. But I'm not really looking for the win. It's all about evaluating and seeing what these guys are doing with live reps against people that they haven't practiced against all offseason.
Yeah. I like the corner. I love the cornerback room this season. This has got to be the deepest that it's been in. I mean, I can't remember the last time that it's been this deep. I think Yiadom is. I think he's going to be a player, and I'm interested to see Darrell Luter because he can't get out of the second and third string reps in camp, and I haven't heard anything terrible about him.
Right,
but I haven't heard anything good either. And Ambry Thomas even got some run in camp. So I like it kind of makes me worried about Luter, even though they liked him last season. Do those injuries that he had, do they play a little bit role in that? I'm not sure. And but Renardo Green, I've heard nothing but good things. The team seems to like him. The coaches seem to like him. So I'm all in on Renardo Green. I agree with you on Mooney. I think that he plays a physical style, and that's going to get you nicked up from time to time. But at the same time, I do think and of course, Demo. I mean, Demo's Demo. That he's a superstar. Like I think this is the first year where he becomes a household name, and I think that the league finally gets to find out who he is, and then. Who's the other? Womack. I think just Womack and Ambry. Nobody wants to see Ambry make the team.
I got to see Womack in the slot. I mean,
he's not going to play the slot. He's got to be good on the outside because they don't want him in the slot.
You think like, but we got to have a backup. Like, I don't want Demo to have to play out there all the time. Who's it going to be if not?
It's going to be Rock Ya-Sin. I think it's going to be Rock Ya-Sin. Like it's going to be Rock Ya-Sin, but I think Demo is going. They're going to do the same thing they did last year. They're going to play. Demo is going to be on the outside with Mooney Ward, and then on those passing downs, he's going to slide inside,
kick him inside,
and they'll have Yiadom. I think it's going to be Yiadom on the outside, and they'll sprinkle in the other guys, Renardo Green, when the game gets out of hand.
So in the event that, I hate saying this, knocking on wood over here, but in the event that Demo's not there, someone has to be able to slide inside, and it can't just.
I think it's going to be
Renardo Green.
Yeah, I think it's going to be. I think they're going to try out Renardo because they like him. They said that they're trying to give him more snaps on the outside, but they've been playing him on the inside as well in camp.
Yeah, enough with the versatility shit. Like, get a guy, see what he's good at, and put him there, and let him. You listen, man. There's this expression, right? Jack of all trades, but master of none.
Yeah.
Let's get the masters at what they do on this team. You know what I'm saying? It's cool to have that little bit of versatility, and we've seen the Niners do it from time to time. Jimmy Ward was the guy who could play all four positions in the secondary, right? Like he was that guy. But that doesn't mean that you want to make your job. You don't want to make your rounds that way if you don't have to. This is my position unless you need me to do something due to injuries to someone else. You know what I'm saying? So I want to see how it plays out, man. That secondary is going to be a fun one to watch. And the running backs. Not for nothing, no Christian McCaffrey. You're probably not going to see Elijah Mitchell. We're going to get a heavy dose of Mason probably, right? And
Mason
then we're
and
going to
Schrader.
see some Breida and Schroeder. Like those are going to be. I want to see those guys bang it out, man. I want to see those guys down the stretch. All last year, well, I won't speak for everyone. I kept thinking of Jordan Mason as the closer, right? Games are time to put them away. We're up by a score. We're up by 10. We need one more touchdown. Put it in Mason's hand. Boom, bust a big one. Touchdown. Game is over. They can't catch us now, right? Like that's the closer. Let's find someone else. Let's see who else can do it now. Let's see who else can be that guy. I want to see the running backs as well.
I don't know that anybody can be that. Jordan Mason was busting gains off of like 8-man boxes.
Yeah.
Like when they knew he was running the ball, and he's still running through people. And that's why I know that Bobby Turner and like all the other stuff, but like it baffled me. Like you figure out a way to get him on the field, but yeah, I know I agree with you on. I want to see the more Mason that I see, the better, and I want to see what all the talk is about with Cody Schrader, because my thought process on Cody Schrader is this: I know he has the good footwork, I know he has good vision. Can he have the athleticism to do the same thing that he did in college in the NFL? That is my question.
Yeah.
I feel like he's another Tevin Coleman.
Oh, that's high praise.
A less athletic Tevin Coleman.
Okay. That's still high praise though. Tevin Coleman, especially with Kyle, he had some runs, man.
They're going to get you open. But this offense, but it goes back to the offensive line, because the offensive line, this isn't 2019. That wide zone isn't opening up as many holes, especially now with Trent not out there.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see. But man, Mike, I appreciate you coming out. We got to get out of here. We're over an hour now. I appreciate you coming through. Always a pleasure to have you. I'm gonna probably ask you again at some point. And but why don't you tell everybody where they can find you on the socials and your content one more time before we get out of here?
Yeah, guys, I want to start with the Patreon page, man. You guys head on over to our Patreon, patreon.com/NB9ERS. There's a lot of people who say, I don't want to pay that high price ticket for a Sunday ticket. You guys can see the games on our Patreon there. You got to subscribe to the $5 or higher tier. Bonus episodes and all that come with the higher prices. Exclusive episodes also, they never make it to YouTube and things like that. So you want to head on over to the Patreon, but also, man, guys, just give us a follow on the YouTube page. YouTube is still here for now. I'll have more answers about that by the end of the month as far as what I'm going to do with the YouTube page, but the YouTube is there for now. youtube.com/in nothing but Niners. So
yeah, and I appreciate everybody in the chat. Y'all were crazy good today in the chat, so appreciate everybody coming out. I am not going to try and name all of you because there were just too many of you. And but Niner Fanatic Podcast, we are on YouTube, we're on Twitter, we are on Facebook, we are on Twitch. We're about to be on Kick, so watch out for that. And if you don't like looking at my face, you can always get the audio version anywhere where you get your audio podcast. So there is no excuse. I don't care where you get it, just get it. And then make sure you tell a friend to tell a friend so we can be friends every day, every week. Like that's just a non-negotiable. Like I need you guys to make sure that you give the video a like, make sure you give it a subscribe, make sure you hit the bell so you get the notifications for when I go live. Do the same for Mr. Mike over there. And like I said, we're going to have preseason football on Saturday. No matter what, all the drama going on with the 49ers, no matter all the drama, we're about to get back to football, and that's really what it's all about. So I appreciate everybody coming out. I will see you guys probably next Tuesday. I might go live for the game. I'm not sure yet, but.
And by the way, also, I know we're wrapping up, but even the wide receivers, Debo's not going to play. Aiyuk's not going to play.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to use Jawan Jennings sparingly. He might just be out there for the opening drive. So you're going to see the depth of the wide receiver. I know that there's a lot of injuries, but if you want to know what the team is really made of, this is going to be a really good barometer for them. This is going to be a very good game to see what we've got. So
because it's all about the depth. You're going to see these people at some point in the season.
Yep.
Because no team ends up being fully healthy all season. So it is what it is. But support your team. Make sure you guys watch the game on Saturday. You don't have to watch the whole thing. I'm not trying to make y'all
4 o'clock West Coast time, 7 p.m. here on the East Coast.
Yeah, absolutely. But we're going to get out of here. Once again, thank y'all for coming through. And before we get out of here, as always, go Niners.